On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
The military was going to be my career, but that was cut short by 3 bullets and a broken neck. So then I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And the closest thing I could find in the civilian world to combat was entrepreneurship. If you're persistent enough, you'll find any answer you want through a Google search.
That's right.
What costs money is implementation. So it's just
That's right.
Just give away the blueprint, hide no secrets. It's like, this is exactly what we did. These are the challenges we face.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. This morning, I've got Lane Boland here on the King stage. My brother Lane, I'm so excited for this conversation.
Hey, man.
It's going to be lit. Yeah, I had to throw that in there, man. We've been going back and forth on social media. We've been going back and forth on Messenger, from one king to another. This is going to be great content. So, tell us what kind of businesses that you have, brother.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So core business, chief operating officer and partner in CQC Home. We're a luxury design build remodeler out of North Carolina. Since then, my partner Ken and I have figured out a way to work ourselves out of a job. I live in Puerto Rico now. And so now we're primarily focused on buying remodelers, typically in the $5 to $8 million space, to flip them into $20 million shops like we are. And at the same time, we've started a kind of a, I don't want to call it management consulting because most of it's just free, but that program itself is designed to create deal flow for our private equity activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love it. A little bit of intentionality behind a giving attitude.
Yep. A little bit.
Yeah. Well, I think that's really what the game is about, whether you're remodeling and you're doing certain things inside of the experience to give to the client something that eventually then turns out good for you. Yep. Or even in the consulting space. Okay. So you're giving away tons of free value. I follow you on social media. You read your stuff. I snapshot your stuff to my team all the time. Hey, do this.
Yeah, no, what it really comes down to is information's free. I mean, if you're persistent enough, you'll find any answer you want through a Google search.
That's right.
What costs money is implementation. So it's just
that's right.
Just give away the blueprint, hide no secrets. It's like, this is exactly what we did. These are the challenges we face. Even as a $20 million shop, I feel like we still have problems that we never solved from $15 million ago. Like,
yeah. I mean, that's super honest. I actually feel that same way about Gathering the Kings as a mastermind. Obviously, the podcast is kind of an extension of that, but sure. you get a $5 million company together mixed with a $30 million company mixed with a $300 million company.
Yeah.
And you're talking about generally the same stuff, although that might sound redundant and, like you said, kind of things that maybe we should have already solved already, but they're just the next level of problems.
It's just the next level. Yeah.
Yeah.
My partner Ken's always telling me to calm down because I'm famous inside the company for saying, when you make a mistake the first time, that's honest. If you make it again, you did that on purpose. It's like, why are we intentionally creating the same damn mistakes?
That's right. That's right. Well, the thickness of what you just said is if you take ownership of it, then it's like, well, I didn't mean to do it a second time.
Right.
Or did you?
Right.
You didn't mean to not do it.
And that's another thing. Who cares about effort? It's about outcomes, results, right?
Yeah.
Do whatever, like one of our values inside the company. I'm like, if this is too vulgar, edit it out, but it's do whatever it takes. So it's like, I don't care how hard you're trying. If we're not achieving the bar, you're not doing enough.
Yeah. Yeah. My 9-year-old says this. She'll say, well, Daddy, I didn't mean to. And I said, I understand that you didn't mean to. I see your intentions.
Right.
But you did though.
Right.
And this was the result of what you did. And now this is the consequence. I know you don't want the consequence because it doesn't match up with your intention.
Right.
However, this is what happened.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
It's accountability, man.
It is what it is. The difference between a misdemeanor and a felony is intention. There's still a criminal act there.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Well, when you lay it on thick like that, man, you only have A players. Obviously, that's what I'm trying to turn my 9-year-old into as well, as an A player. Like, yeah, like I'm not interested in a wishy-washy daughter, let alone a wishy-washy team member or even our partner or mastermind member. Like, I want somebody to push back on me, not just me pushing back on them all the time, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, well,
Steal.
I got to know inside of this like personality of Lane Boland, right? This exciting person who's all over the map with all kinds of incredible stuff going on in his business. What's the burning desire? Like deep down, what's the bigger picture? What's the why?
So the why at this point is just it's excellence for the sake of excellence. Socrates talks about arete being the expression of your own personal excellence and
Right.
and being, you know, a lot of the Stoic philosophers talk about the pursuit of arete as the key to happiness. You know, others talk about it as like your meaning to exist as a human being. Like you wanted to get deep, that's what it just comes down to is you know, you're given a set of circumstances, you're given a set of traits and skills. It's like, if you're not maximizing it, why are you here?
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I love that answer. I want to press into that because you articulated it slightly different than I have, but I feel like our answers are like basically the same. Yeah, because it's like, dude, I'm a maximizer. And if I'm not reaching for the full potential, and when you realize what you just said, so I'm hoping the listener kind of maybe pauses this, go back and listen to what you just said again. Because when you really grab onto that, you're actually never done.
No,
right?
It's an infinite game. The purpose of the game is to play the game at a higher level with bigger stakes.
That's right.
Period.
All the time. Okay, so tell us a little bit, maybe practically the journey, but really what I want to know inside of the answer that you just gave is, when did that mindset come upon you? Like, when did you grab a hold of that really?
That happened. I would say, yeah, this is gonna sound really deep, but that struck me as I was decompressing from my very first firefight in Iraq. Like,
okay,
what am I doing here? Why do I enjoy doing this? Like, this is not normal.
This is crazy. Yeah, man. And you spent quite a bit of time there. So thank you for your service. That's a big deal. But like inside that moment, it makes a lot of sense. You're there like questioning, I'm putting my life at stake here. This is nuts, but I kind of like, I'm here. I'm in it. Like, this is intense and I'm digging it. But how did that come out as the like answer for you in that moment?
I can't even describe the high you get when you're operating at your pure highest potential. And at the same time, everybody around you who both relies on you or is part of your team is also running at 100 points. Like I don't care what the activity is, business, life, like war, you know, sports, like anybody who's played like true competitive sports. I mean, like not high school, but I mean, like at a high level, understands exactly what I'm talking about right now. And it's just like, and so my first intention was the military was going to be my career, but that was cut short by 3 bullets and a broken neck. So then I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And the closest thing I could find in the civilian world to combat was entrepreneurship.
Business. Yeah, that's right. That's so true. It's so true. So you make the transition to entrepreneurship. Tell us why remodeling, or maybe a little bit of the story there at the beginning.
So as I'm recovering from the neck injury, I was like, well, I got to acquire some life skills, because right now, the only thing I'm qualified to do is lead 30 to 160 men into combat. And apparently the civilian world doesn't really have.
We don't have a lane for that.
No. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not really scared of anything at this point. And I was like, so let's just go into sales, because most people aren't good at like, I literally went to Google, like, what's the most money I can make in the civilian world with no skills? It came back sales.
Sales. Yep. Let me do that.
And so then I was like, I like money. And while I was in Iraq, like Tim Ferriss published 4-Hour Work Week, right? So through every single one of my 4 tours of duty, I would always thumb through that book, because my goal was, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this Army career thing until I can't. And then I'm going to build up this little passive IM business, which is a fairy tale. And then I'm just going to retire to the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So I was like, I got the marketing skills, sales, like I'm not afraid to ask for the business. I pretty analytical. I went to work for Edward Jones, which is really weird because the whole reason why you go to a school like West Point is to get that pedigree so you don't go
Right.
working for a company like Edward Jones. But the thing is, the more I got into there, I realized the genius of their organization. Like I went in there just to get them to train me on like retail financial sales.
Sure.
But then I realized like the genius of how they structure their organization, how, yes, it's like they've never gone public. It operates like an investment, like a privately held investment bank, like Goldman Sachs used to, or like a law firm. And so like all the employees that work there own the damn thing.
Right.
And like they have like no tolerance for C players at all. I was like, I am digging this.
Yeah.
But the thing is, much like the Army, they really don't like innovators. So even though I was breaking record after record, once they realized how I was doing it,
You were
they're
too
like,
colorful.
You're like, you got to stop doing that. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I quit. Turns out my largest client came to me saying he wanted to start a family office, which is like a private investment company for a wealthy family. I told him, I was like, sir, I understand you want a family office. I would love to date Kate Upton, but it's just not going to happen. And I was like, you don't have enough money. And he's like, Lane, you only see the money I've shown you. Anyway, so we start a family office. Fast forward a couple of years, he comes to me and he says, Lane, I think a recession's coming. I want you to figure out how we can get stock market like returns without correlation with the stock market. I'm like, great, Jim, another impossible mission.
I'm on it.
On it. But yeah, so what I came up with was, okay, if we created a portfolio, split it down the middle, half of it in like multifamily real estate in like third tier cities like Tulsa, Little Rock,
Sure,
but whatever, and reinvest on that portfolio, like every dollar that comes in. And then the rest we put in early stage tech in the Midwest where the coasts are not really paying attention to.
right.
Even if that portfolio works out, great, we hit a home run, we're doing 50% internal rate of return. If that side of the portfolio shits the bed and goes to zero, I know on the real estate side will return 8%. Anyway, and so he told me go execute. I'm like, I don't know anything about real estate or venture capital. So that's like, had to figure that one out.
Yeah.
But to answer how I got to remodeling was one day, walked into the boardroom, a lot of heavy hitters because of an NDA. I can't talk about it. You know them, they're in Kansas City. But basically I was like, the just looking around, I was like, the tech scene, the valuations are so stretched. The deals are getting like weirder and weirder in terms of like the value they actually do in order their ability to make money.
Right.
Like, this is dumb. And when you look at the last 40 years, all we've done is educate cubicle monkeys who can barely attend meetings. And the average age of a blue collar business owner that's doing 2 million or better is 62 years old. They're all heading into the exits at the same time. And and the people who are qualified to run that company are not qualified to buy it, and vice versa. And it's like, it doesn't take a PhD in economics to see the supply demand imbalance, which equals opportunity.
That's right.
And so in my supreme arrogance, because at this point I have cheated death 3 times, found my way into a family office within 3 years of starting as a schleppy financial advisor, got into real estate development and started venture capital for like legit multi-million-dollar operations. I was like, I can do anything. And so I started a remodeler, not even knowing how to read plans.
I love it.
But that hubris brought me to the brink of bankruptcy within 2 years, because I absolutely refused to follow the playbook I used to beat on my venture capital portfolio owners about in terms of like hiring through your blind spots, hiring only players, getting out of their way.
Right.
I was such a control freak, and at the same time, I was hopelessly incompetent at the product that we were building. Like I drove it, like my multi-million-dollar mini little empire that I cobbled together in the by the age of 35, 5 years out of the Army was like, I remember the day when I was literally walking up the court steps at Johnson County Courthouse to go file bankruptcy. And I realized, like, wait a minute, I don't have to do this. I know a better way. And
Yeah.
anyway, so
Wow.
sold the company to the employees. I had shops in Kansas City, Dallas, Denver, down in Austin. It was dumb. Like, it's like my way of solving our cash flow problems was to go create more cash flow problems rather than addressing our internal gross profit problems. Like, we didn't
Right.
have a revenue problem, we had a gross profit problem.
Right.
And divested those liabilities, moved to Puerto Rico, basically. And the reason why I moved to Puerto Rico was because under Act 60, you're immune to federal taxation, right? So basically that's a way of getting rid of a 40% deadweight partner, which means you can bounce back or accrue wealth two times faster, 2.5 times faster. But anyway, so while I was, licking my wounds there, and just honestly going back through to understand everything that went wrong and why, I just started journaling that out in a remodeler Facebook group. And then Ken, my now partner, saw that, called me up. And he said, "Hey man, I'm losing 2% on 8 million, the same problems you're talking about. Why don't you come in?" He's like, I'll give you 25% of the lift in the net." 6 months later, he went from losing 2 on 8 million to making 15 on 16 million.
Yeah. Wow.
17-point net swing. But again, and we can rap about everything we did there, but that was then the oh shit moment of, okay, we figured out the game. Let's scale this as fast as we can.
Yeah, exactly. Which takes you back to actually your bumbling before, but you got the experience of the venture capital and the real estate play. I'm sure that those things have played into what you do now, which I love that piece of it. Like, would you agree that most entrepreneurs and maybe even listening right now, they're bumbling through something that in the next 5 or 10 or maybe 20 years, they're going to look back and be like, man, because I went through that, I now have a playbook.
That's right. That's right.
On how to use this.
We all have learning seasons and we have earning seasons. It's just,
that's right.
You have no idea how long each is going to last.
That's right. That's right. It keeps you honest and keeps you looking at the account every day and grateful, honestly. Okay. So let's break down some of those practicals. I appreciate you being willing to do that. Good and bad decisions, kind of how the show's cruxed here. So let's find a good decision inside of that kind of, like, I'm sure, plethora of things that you did inside of Ken's business that became yours. Give us some practicals there. Because I'm sure it's not just remodeling. I'm sure it's applicable to any business.
Yeah. Do you want strategic or tactical? Like something they can implement right away?
Let's go tactical.
Okay. So I fired our entire sales force.
Okay.
We don't use sales guys. And the reason why is because as a sales guy, where your relationship ends when that contract is signed, and then it goes to client success or a project manager or whomever. Number one, the company has to rebuild that rapport and rebuild that trust.
That's right.
That walked with the sales guy, right?
Part of the reason why they bought was that guy.
100% correct. And then number two is sales guys are paid a percentage of revenue.
Right.
Excuse my language, but they don't give a if the contract is sold fat enough for the company to make a profit. They're not incentivized to do that. They're incentivized for volume
to get the
revenue,
deal,
not profit.
That's right.
And the thing is, it's like, one thing I'm just absolutely phobic about is ensuring that we can guarantee any piece of business we do that we will not get clipped on. Because like my superpower is marketing and sales. And if you're losing money on the back end, all you're doing with marketing and sales is accelerating your decline into bankruptcy, right? So we got rid of sales guys. We call them project directors now, and they're the single point of contact from when the lead comes in to final payment collection.
Wow.
Single point. That did a bunch of things for us. Number one, all of a sudden we're selling contracts at higher gross profit.
Right.
Why? Because when we did that, now the sales guy's in charge, he has to service the problems that he promised up front.
Yep.
Right. Which is another problem you have with sales guys that are commissioned off of revenue.
Right.
So now they're very cheerful to promise only what can be delivered. That eliminates the 3 a.m. phone calls to the owner. In fact, by them being the single point of contact, they're the ones taking those calls at 3 a.m. And they're also the only one authorized to make decisions about money adjustments to our contracts because we pay them off of gross profit. And what that's done is it's taken a sales force and converted them into mini entrepreneurs.
100%.
Amazing.
Yeah. Sales guys are already entrepreneurial. They want to have autonomy. They want to be able to do deals. They want to be able to think outside the box. They don't want to just take orders. So you give them another level of think, not just autonomy, but a level of think to do it like a business owner, a profitable business owner should, is what you're saying.
Right. So we pay our guys a draw like 80K. Most small business owners in our space don't even take 80K home.
Right.
And so our average project director is clipping somewhere between 150 and 300K. It's like, where else are you going to make surgeon level money with a high school education?
Yeah.
All you got to do is accept responsibility.
Yep. Be an owner, right? Or take ownership is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I love that. Just another layer to the practicality here.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your clients or even inside your own business to find those guys? You said not even high school educated potentially. Right. Maybe he's got some skills, maybe he doesn't, but who is that person that you're looking for? Maybe where do you find them?
Oh my gosh. So my best specific to, all right, you have to understand luxury remodel, you're selling 6-figure tickets to somebody that's only going to buy that 1.5 times in their life.
Right.
So that's a very specialized skill set. They got to be comfortable talking about money. They got to be emotionally dispassionate or at least stable. And very, 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 I mean, like their attention to detail, their critical thinking has got to be through the roof.
Yeah.
To use the Tony Robbins disc profile, like I'm a high D, high I. What I need these guys to be is a high I, high C.
Yeah.
And so where I found those guys typically are like Ferrari car dealerships. Because think about it, like a 6-figure ticket, dealing with the same class of customer that they're only going to buy maybe once or twice in their life.
That's right.
Perfect. I can teach somebody construction. I'm living proof that you can learn construction. I'm a Wall Street guy. Like what I can't teach you to do is how to be comfortable talking about money, because the way self-made wealthy people think about money is wildly different from the wage slaves.
That's right. And if you send somebody in to have the conversation with that guy and he's all bound up about money, even his own beliefs, it makes the sales process almost disappear.
Yeah, they're not selling. That's why I tell them, like, guys, you're not selling. All you're doing is identifying problems and solving them before you drop price. And then after that, again, you're not selling, you're negotiating the objections away.
Let's just figure out how we can get a deal done for you.
There is no persuasion here. You're not gonna, like, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Like,
that's right. Well, and I think that what you just described, I mean, of course, there's, how to win friends and influence people. It talks about having a relatable or a persuasive or a likable personality. Sure. That's not what you're talking about. You're talking about when you're in the seat and you're not like arm wrestling them down, then like, here, sign right here. Like that. Gone are those days. Would you agree?
Gone. Perfect information on the internet. Assume that the client knows your cost structure. So stop trying to hide it and just own it. Like, we're going to make a 40% gross profit, and that's the price for the speed and convenience of working with us. If you don't like that, go deal with Home Depot Hank. Like,
Yep. And it's going to take longer. You're probably going to have problems, and whatever.
Yeah. Period.
There's a distinction there between luxury. It's the same guy, like you said, who's going to buy Ferrari. He's not at the Audi dealership. Audis are nice,
right?
But he's not at the Audi dealership.
No. And Alex Hormozy, he articulates this best, that value is an algebra equation. Value equals, the dream, in other words, the client's outcome times or perceived likelihood, divided by the time it takes for you to deliver that dream, multiplied by the hassle of working with you. And amateurs focus on their promises, like years in business and look at all my reviews. I'm like, great, that's top line. Like anything divided by 0 is infinity.
That's
so
right.
So the pros are focused on compressing time.
That's right.
Time to value and eliminating hassle.
That's right.
Like any time a client has to think and make a decision, that's hassle.
That's right.
Right. So what I'm getting at it, or what I'm trying to drive at is like, just to illustrate a point, like you look at gym memberships versus Plastic surgeons, they do the same thing. They eliminate a stomach.
That's right.
Plastic surgeon gets 10 grand. Gym gets $100 a month. Why?
That's right.
Because the customer is asleep and they wake up without a stomach. Like,
That's right. That's right. Yeah. 100%. I'm a huge Mosey fan. I'm part of Mosey Nation, if that's what you want to call it. But yeah, the equation that you're given is huge. I want to just hit it home all the way for the listener. The top line that you're talking about, hey, this is what we can do for you, is only part of the equation. It's below the line that Alex really breaks down in a good way. Like you're talking about, it's the speed and the less hassle, especially if you're talking about doing 6-figure remodels or any sort of high level ticket. And my challenge actually for the listener, depending upon what industry that they're in, would be this. Why are you not selling high ticket? Why would you want to deal with not high-end luxury people who are going to always have money, recession or not?
Chaz, I have no interest in being average. The average person can't handle a $500 unexpected bill. Yeah. The average business never gets above $2 million. I got news for you. Like when an average net profit margin is 5 to 10%, like right. you would make more with zero risk having a job somewhere else.
Seriously.
Not interested in being average. Like,
yeah.
It's not, it's like you owe it to your family, you owe it to yourself for the risk and for the effort. And like the distinction here is average people focus on what the client wants and your likelihood. And in the luxury market, that's not a competitive advantage. That's the barrier. That's like the ante to play this poker game.
Exactly. Like, they're expecting that.
Right. So your premium is a function of how fast you are, not in absolute terms, but in relative terms to your competitors.
That's right.
And your hassle. And like, I literally, like, if I could find a way to, I'm at the point now in Durham where I'm going to pay our receptionist to go and find our competitors' job sites, which we have that information from the permit data. And I want them to time their projects, because if we're not faster, we can't justify our premium.
That's right. That's right. And making it actual, right? Like you're not just saying that we're better. No, like I know with accuracy that we're better.
Right. Yes. These aren't platitudes.
Yeah. Which gives you're not calling them salespeople, but your project directors, it gives them uber confidence to be able to say, here's the difference. Here's the fill in the blank, your company name difference. And when that luxury person hears it, not only are they hearing the words, but they're also hearing his conviction when they say it. Because again, a high income individual is going to think about money and your process. Like he's analyzing you and your process and your communication language while you're giving it.
Huge point. Like it's not enough just to say I'm the fastest, because these luxury people are gonna be like, okay, well, their next question is how?
Yeah,
like,
show me. Yep.
And so if you don't have a process along with data to back it up,
that's right.
You're back in that average pile.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. One super easy thing in this, because I told you I launched a remodeling company about 4.5 months ago. Yeah. And of course I've got other companies and stuff too, but so it's like the level of detail. So when you go into a luxury person, really anybody, actually, let's just take away luxury. Let's just talk about the average person, all humans. When you go in this contracting space and you have done a thorough proposal, let's just like that you actually care. Because you've actually broken it down like you know what you're doing. That response is, whoa, this is really, first off, you were fast at getting it to me. Number two, it's way more detailed than anything else I've gotten from anybody else. Half the other people haven't even responded. It has been a week.
Right.
I mean, it just really doesn't take that much to stand out. Would you agree?
No, especially in like the local business arena, these are not sophisticated operators. Like for the audience, repeat after me, your competition are stupid. Like this is like you are literally beating up on inferior people. Just it's not
they're sleeping. They're not operating at full potential, nor do they want to.
No. So
what average is, that's the definition of average.
Exactly. Complacency. They're comfortable.
All right, let's flip the coin here, Lane, because you've given us so much good stuff. I want to know maybe what Ken was doing, or maybe some things that you guys have done together that have been a bad choice, something that you can keep us away from.
Okay, bad choice. I'll give you two. One from my personal career point of view, a second with at CQC while we've been winning, because you still got your L's even when you're winning.
That's right.
So even though I had the capital, I raised outside money on an unproven business venture
Interesting.
which was my first foray into remodel.
Okay.
That went tits up. Well, I mean, like, yeah, sure, I exited, but it wasn't
Right.
real, right?
Right.
And so what I'm getting at, the reason why became such an issue is the interpersonal relationships. Number one, it killed my own personal confidence.
Right.
Two, it created distractions of having to deal with those legal issues rather than focusing on
Right.
rebuilding Rome,
Right.
which it was inevitable Rome was going to be rebuilt anyway.
Yeah.
But from the investor standpoint, like for them, the world has ended.
Oh yeah.
But there's
What have we done with this guy?
right, and there's nothing you can say to them to convince them otherwise.
That's right.
And full disclosure, like we're already in negotiations on the payback. Even though that company went tits up, I'm like, no, the moral thing here is to pay that dude back.
That's right.
Because he basically funded my education to learn how to do this shit. And so what I'm getting at is learn, like, if you don't have the skills and you need, like, if you're going to learn on somebody else's dime, do it as an employee. Do not raise money for something that you're not an absolute master at. It's just unethical. I mean, granted, did I go in that with good intentions, like we talked about with your 9-year-old? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But again, I was just so arrogant to be like, I'm a master of the universe in finance. Why wouldn't I kill construction? Like,
right. Yeah. There's a gap there that you didn't see until now, or
now. Yeah. Now, tactically at CQC, yeah, one of my construction mentors, yeah, $1 billion developer, brilliant dude. He's always fond of saying, cut once, cut deep. And so when I walked into CQC, Ken's going to hate me for saying this, but again, this is my own personal appraisal. Like, I felt like I was walking into Animal House. Like, it felt like a frat house. And so
probably say a lot of remodeling companies are probably like that.
Yeah. So I spent a week just observing and realized that there was $250,000 worth of payroll sitting in the admin department that we could convert from $250,000 a year to about a $12,000 engagement with a CPA.
Wow.
And so without considering the morale implications or anything like that, I just set off my chaos grenade, started issuing pink slips. Right. What I should have done was brief the team on, this is the transformation plan. These are the seats available. If you don't see your name up on here, we need to have a talk about, what your next move is. You're not, it's like, what I'm getting at is like, I was way too brutal. The better way, again, should have been figure out what the transformation plan is, brief the company, explain that the compensation structures and personnel moves are not going to change for 6 months in order for people that don't have a seat to go find a seat and for everybody else to settle into their role before we do this for real.
Yeah.
And that's, if I had to do it all over again at CQC, that's what I would have done. It would have sped up our business plan probably by 3 or 4 months, because there was about 3 or 4 months of just open rebellion and putting out personality fires that we should have spent on focusing, growing the empire.
That's right. It's really good impact that you can see now and be able to give to the listener. I'm taking a few folks through the 5 dysfunctions of a team by Patrick Lencioni, and everything that you probably were dealing with inside of that mess is inside of those 5 dysfunctions, which it doesn't mean that it couldn't have been done better, or even in the process of someone listening right now and they're like, oh man, I've got those problems right now in my team. Like right now, I'm not even trying to take over and do something different. It's intentionality is what I heard you say. I heard you say you recognize that there's humans on the other side, that they have lives and families, and that you can create vision and then give communication to steer the ship in the right direction, whether they're going to be on the team or not. There's always going to be people who are no longer a good fit. They're the wrong person or they're in the wrong seat. And that's not our decision. That's their decision to make for themselves. The ethical thing but they can't make that decision if the seat isn't clear and the expectations aren't clear, right?
That's right. And so the 2 things, 3 really, but the 2 primary drivers, what took us from losing 2% on 8 million to earning 15% on 16 in 6 months. Number one, the project director system. Number two was everybody, even down to the receptionist, at least 25% of their compensation is tied to how their role directly affects gross or net profit.
Yeah. There's a lot of, again, intentionality, integral detail, actually,
Right.
how those things tie together, because a lot of people might be listening right now going, well, how does the receptionist tie to the
Good
net?
point. I'm glad you said that. Like her KPI on the variable is 100% calls answered within 2 rings.
Boom.
Bing.
That's right. Because there's money on the other side.
Right. Now that's really hard to track. The one that's her base KPI, her variable KPI. So you got 2 KPIs. The base KPI is what the bare minimum to keep their job with the company. And then the variable is something that they directly control that directly impacts gross profit. So for a receptionist, it's, hey, you need to maintain a 33% lead to appointment set ratio.
That's right.
That's easy enough. Easy.
Yep. Every 10 calls, I got to set 3.3 appointments.
So now I just turned a receptionist from a leaf eater cost center into a meat eating profit center.
Yep.
Ding.
Yeah, just the attention that you brought her attention, I'm saying, to the actual important thing. It wasn't just answering the phone. That's step one. Yes, I need to answer the phone within 2 rings, but it can't stop there, because if I answer the phone within 2 rings, but then I have a bad attitude, or I have a scenario where I'm not paying attention, anything that could distract me from the next KPI, which is booking the appointment.
Right.
Because those things don't just happen naturally. You and I both know this as sales guys. You can have a layup come right to you, and they will not be a layup if it's not put through the process properly, or if you don't have the person working the process. So I love how you gave that distinction. I hope the listeners paying close attention, because that right there, the basic function of answering the phone with a smile, but then also being able to convert. I mean, you can play that same deviation to any role and how it associates directly to the business.
Well, like our project directors are primarily sales and money guys. Well, they're teamed up with a project manager who actually is in charge of building the thing.
Right.
And I got to align them so they got to be compensated off the same KPI, which is gross profit. That way, the sales guy cannot point at the PM for why
he overspent.
Right. And conversely, the GP's base KPI is something we call slippage, which is the difference between what we estimated profit to be at versus what was actual profit.
Right.
And so his variable KPI, his base KPI is gross, his variable is slippage. And your average construction company has 6% slip, right? Whereas right now we're averaging 1% grippage, meaning our jobs are 1% outperforming the estimate. That's like operating this business in God mode.
Yeah, exactly. What I just heard you say, tell me if I'm wrong here, because I'm not necessarily looking for a cheat code, but what I heard you say is, if the average construction company, or we could probably just apply to all trades, anything that's giving an estimate, has a 6% slippage, why wouldn't you on the front end just automatically add 6%? Let's just cover that.
Then you're not going to be competitive, because somebody like me who does know their numbers and manages them tightly is going to eat your lunch every time.
Exactly. So you have this, you're between a rock and a hard place.
Right. Well, it comes down to doing your homework and being a professional.
That's right.
And then creating the incentives for your people to reward the behaviors you want.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. There's several pieces here, and I know that there's a lot of value here, but we got to keep it moving.
You're like, keep going, Lane.
But in all seriousness, we could have a whole show just on this, being able to not only break down each project, but really you're talking about your business. Like how do these pieces tug and pull on each other? Well, there are no projects for the PM and the director to even worry about muddling with if the gal up front doesn't answer the phone.
That's right.
So it's like they're all tied together, and
it's a system of systems.
That's right. Which, would you agree, confuses people? Even just thinking like a system of systems. What? It seems complicated. It's overwhelming. Like, oh my, maybe it'll just be easier, Lane, if I just don't. I'll keep my business small. I won't have to worry about hiring A players. But what if I What would you say? I mean, that's average, obviously, and neither one of us are like that, but maybe those thoughts creep in to a listener. What would you say to that guy?
And I'll hold up a mirror, and my portfolio partner, Steve Clearman, will have no problem with me saying this. He's 68 years old. He's the owner of the remodel group in Portland. He came to me saying, for the last 40 years, I was just like, rather than address this problem, I'm going to, stay small and just do what I can control and make enough smiles. He's like, but I'm 68 years old. I got my business valuation. I can't sell the business because it's not worth anything.
Because he has no business.
He has a job.
He has a job. Yes.
Right. And so I was like, yeah, Steve, we're looking at about a 4-year campaign to get you to the point where this thing's sellable, totally doable, but like it's infinitely easier to do to solve this problem in your 30s and 40s and just like take the pain now. Because it's going to be 10 times harder when you're 68 years old and you have biology working against you.
That's right. I was just at a trade show this past weekend in Connecticut, and I was talking to a father-son duo, and they're the only ones in the business. They were, obviously a pretty small outfit. And I was talking to him about the son, he's in the business, dad still, they're kind of doing it together. But I was asking him about growth and bringing on team members. And like, is it always going to be just like this, you and him? And it was just such small thinking. And I stayed there for a minute, not because I enjoyed the conversation necessarily, but because I was so provoked to want to like just open up something for them, And it was so interesting because once I said, don't you want something different than what he has? Because he's giving it to you because there's nothing to sell. His body's broken.
Right.
You in 40 years or 20 years or however old that dude was, want to be able to have nothing that you can sell, that you can only give away to potentially your son. He's like, well, I got 2 daughters. I'm like, well, you can still do that. But my point's even better now. Like, what is the succession plan? There is none. You're just going to work until you die.
Yeah. And that's why 96% of construction trade businesses go out of business every 10 years. It's because there is no succession plan.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, you said it earlier. You said basically choose your hard. You're either going to choose hard now and build the system, or eventually, and maybe not even eventually till you get to your 60s and you can't even sell it. Maybe it's 10 years down the road and you're still in your 40s or 50s, but you realize that doing it all by yourself with no team, with no systems, with no investment, then it's just really just a lot.
And it gets harder every year.
And it gets hard.
Energy to do it.
And you just give up. You quit.
You quit. Right.
What do you do now, Lane? Or what do you teach other business owners that you're in, getting into deals with in order to make good decisions? Something that comes across your desk, you gotta follow a formula of sorts to make a good decision. What is that?
Well, I mean, like, what are we dealing with? I mean, my framework is this core business?
Love that.
If it isn't core, then we don't do it.
It's out. If it doesn't match what we're doing.
Then the next thing is lining up, what's the benefit? What's the cost? Like,
right.
I used to play poker at a professional level. And so an equation that's always popping off in my head is likelihood of success times the reward minus likelihood of failure times the cost. And
give that to us again.
Yeah. The likelihood of success times the payoff.
Yeah.
Minus the likelihood of failure times the cost. And I won't even look at the decision if it's negative. Yeah. But even if it's positive, then you got to look at the juice worth the squeeze in the sense that will this kill the goose if catastrophic failure? Like for me, the bigger you get, that percentage of catastrophic failure that you can accept has to get smaller and smaller and smaller, right?
Right.
And that is purely just the size of the bet, right?
Yeah.
So if we're betting the farm, I won't accept anything less than like 99% likelihood, right?
Right.
But so that's it's art science, art. But
I love that.
But again, if it's not core business, stop looking at it. Like, you're a business owner. You're not a real estate investor. Like, the reason why your business is small is because you keep finding new opportunities because new opportunities are shiny and exciting, but you don't bother mastering the one that's paying your bills.
Yeah. I mean, we might just mic drop it, end it there. No, I mean, I feel personally attacked. No, I'm just kidding.
Sorry.
No, it's good, man. Every entrepreneur has to work through this. I've done worked through this, although
Right.
it doesn't mean that it's done. As entrepreneurs, we get
Sure.
excited. We want to accomplish the next thing.
Yeah.
And often to give just another level of maybe insight to that place where someone's willing to take, a look. Cause I can remember moments where I was, oh, that's shiny. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do this. Maybe I'll do all of them.
Yeah. No.
And usually that came from a place where I had already mastered something, or I got bored and I didn't know how to up the game or up the challenge in the current thing. Or that current vehicle was no longer viable because there are certain vehicles, certain businesses that only go so far.
Chaz, there's only two reasons to change your game. Either A, to play a bigger game.
That's right.
Or B, you don't think your current game is going to last 10 years.
Right.
Like those
So
are only
good.
two reasons, because there's such a cost to change. Like you are literally throwing away the time you spent to acquire these skills, and you will never get that time back.
That's right.
So I mean, like you've got to be almost like my favorite word is no. Like
Yeah. No, it's so true. It's so true. Just to give the listeners just a little bit of personal history here, because obviously I just within Edible Arrangements, that was my first business. I had 7 locations, 3 states, 65 employees in my 20s. And like you said, the only reason I moved on, I still have a few of them, but the only reason I moved on is because that was, I turned that into basically a portfolio, and then I was ready for the next vehicle, the upgrade. And it doesn't mean that was a bad business. It just means that the levels of achievement that I wanted to go to, I knew I needed to go into a different vehicle. But wow, the reality of what Lane just said is I had to take time, and I'm still technically in the process of that, of taking the skill sets here, and I have a lot of value, but
sure,
it's zero again. And building these things up over in different arenas now makes a lot of sense. Even this podcast in itself, we started 14 months ago. We've recorded now over 300 shows, but 14 months ago, nobody had ever heard of Gathering the Kings.
No, I know. You're kicking so much ass. I love it. Like as
it was zero.
Interviewer, like I put you up there with like Tom Bilyeu, like in terms of interviewing.
Wow, I appreciate that.
Like keep it up. I'm a fan. Yeah.
Those are good things. I want the listener to take away the reality of what you just said, because we've heard the Alex Hormozis and the other entrepreneurs of the world say, stay focused. And we know this. I'm right there with you. I guess inside of that, it's the work that you have to, like, as you change. You gave a really good picture there. So it's almost like the fear. Before we jumped on, we were talking about, do you love to win? Do you hate to lose? And you're a hate to lose, I'm a love to win type of guy. But the reality is you said people have to run from their fear. That's the motivation, is the fear. And so I'm trying to put the fear in the listener right now of, don't change just for the sake of change. Obviously, if you need to change the vehicle, or it's not going to be around for the next 10 years, like you said, those are good reasons. But there's a lot of work that goes into the change, man. Don't do it.
Yeah, you're signing up for a 5-year apprenticeship before you can start making money again.
Yeah, as you should, right? Like you have to become a master at something. You already know this because you're listening, or you and me have already created certain, incredible things. Yeah, like any new thing, it's going to take time, and now you have a poise factor that comes in. It's like, okay, well, here we go. You can remove all that if you stay in a lane and become better and better and better and better and better.
Yep. And Chaz, Ken and I, to answer your question directly, we actually have a rigid process for how we opportunity.
Love it.
And you gotta separate out into timeframes, right? So you got your annual strategic goals.
Yep.
And I don't mean SMART goals. I mean, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? How are we doing it? When does it have to be done by?
Yeah.
Right. And it's the rule of 3. Like the Army, I feel like every 30 years or so, the Army does a psychological study to see how many complex processes you as a human being can control before it degrades. And the answer is always the same. And it pisses me off they keep spending money on this. 3 to 5. Okay.
Yeah. And 5 would be a lot.
Let's all assume that we're all knuckle dragging idiots here, and we can only handle 3. So 3 strategic objectives. Anything more than that, if it isn't in your top 3, it goes on to the good idea fairy list to wait until one of those objectives is accomplished, and then you can pull it in. And then on a quarterly basis, what are your 3 things you're doing as a company that nest into your 3 annual objectives?
That's right.
Period. And then on a monthly basis, all your team members, they have 3 critical tasks that relate to their job description, but are not in their job description to support the strategic goals of the company.
Yeah.
Period. No more than 3. Anything left over goes on to the good ideas fairy list.
Yeah.
And then it's like every week we look at if a new opportunity arises, which to me a problem is the same as opportunity. But a new opportunity shows up, a problem, that goes on to the issues list, right? That we review every week, and then we decide, does this have to be actioned immediately? Is this an existential threat to our quarterly and annual objectives? If the answer is no, then it can wait 4 weeks. And if it can wait, then it becomes a tasking, a 4-week tasking.
Yeah.
And if it can wait more than 4 weeks, then it can wait a whole quarter, and we'll look at our quarterly planning meeting.
That's right.
And the number 1 rule is if it's not core business, it's not even allowed on the tracker. Period.
Yeah. You just downloaded just the absolute recipe for business discipline. Nobody has discipline. I don't want to say nobody because that's obviously a blanket statement, but the majority don't. It's so hard. But when you just do it exactly like you just said. So if you're listening right now, my suggestion would you hit the pause button, hit the rewind button, grab that pen and paper, and literally word for word write down what Lane just said. Lane, I want to go to a KPI question.
Sure.
And it's this: if you could track one thing for all eternity inside this business of yours, what would it be? The one
Gross
thing.
profit.
Okay. And you alluded to this earlier, but give us just a little bit, like, why is that your boom answer?
Yeah, so gross profit is what you get to keep after you do your service for whatever your thing is that you provide, your widget, your service. Okay. Based off of if gross profit is trending up, then that tells me either sales is increasing, cool, or our pricing power is increasing, even better, or our direct costs are going down, also a good thing. Like those are the 3 things that should keep you up at night as a business owner. Like sales, direct costs, profit margin, pricing power, period, right?
Yep.
Because without gross profit, you have nothing to invest in the company.
Right.
You don't period, right?
Yep.
So like your empire is built off of gross profit. End of story, drop mic, period.
Yep. Yeah, because for maybe the listener that doesn't understand, there's obviously still things that come out of that, but all of those things can be manipulated. It's not needed to do the service.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways we can manipulate gross profit. I mean, we can sell more, we can increase our pricing, we can lower our cost structure.
Right.
I mean, we can give the appearance. I mean, we can speed up accounts receivable. We can delay accounts payable, which those 2 are bean counter gimmicks that
that's just a number on a screen.
Tricks. That is gross profit.
Exactly. Lane, what book or business resource would you recommend for somebody listening right now who wants to grow?
Ready, Fire, Aim.
Good. What's your takeaway from that book?
Stop overthinking it, set your objective, move violently at it.
Violently. Love it.
Constantly, look, I learned this in combat. I didn't learn this in the book, but this is a little nuance. If you understand what I'm about to explain, the book will make all the sense in the world. But to be successful in combat, I'm not paying attention to what the enemy wants to do. I'm paying attention to how the enemy is reacting to my moves on the board. Right, because that tells me what he's trying to protect. You understand what I'm getting at?
Yep.
And so you can go into a plan not even knowing what you want to do, other than just destroying the enemy. And as long as you're iterating faster of identifying what the enemy is trying to do, look at what tools you have at your disposal to ruin their day, execute, evaluate results, and you're constantly going through that loop. If you can go through that loop faster than in the marketplace, you win. So ready, fire, aim. Just as long as we understand the end state we're moving towards, and every step is generally in that direction. Yeah. Great success.
Yeah. It's good. There's plenty of other detail that come along later to make it all work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too much hesitation. Exactly. What do you, this is gonna be an interesting question for you, just because obviously I know that you value this, but you do it in maybe a specific way. buying companies or buying in. What do you think about intentionally networking or masterminding with other entrepreneurs?
Oh man. I always want to have a group behind me to teach because that speeds up my own mastery.
Oh,
And,
sure.
and I want to have a group in front of me. Like I want to be the smallest, stupidest person in the room.
Right.
In
Right.
that group. And some people may say you want a group of like-minded peers. For me, unless we're equity partners in a venture together, this is gonna sound harsh, but I don't really care about your opinion.
Sure. Yeah.
Like it's gonna distract me from my mission. So a group, a group behind me, a group in front of me, one or two partners, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're right when it comes to I guess there's a distinction there between like-mindedness and being able to receive, right? And actually, this is actually a really good point. I'm going to take the opportunity to explain this because there's a lot of groups that you can be part of. I created Gathering the Kings because inside of Think and Grow Rich, it talks about the definition of a mastermind, and it's not necessarily advice or coaching or answers, although sometimes those things come from it. It's an agitation of your experience and your just energy to mine. We're even doing it right now where we're just going back and forth, and there's this agitation, and because of the agitation, maybe a new idea or a new thought of sorts. That is what the mastermind is supposed to be. And so it fits your definition actually quite right, where maybe you don't have somebody further along than you that's pouring in. I still value that like you do. And maybe it's not necessarily someone who's further behind that you're pouring in. I still value that just like you. But there's this ability to just put like minds in the same room, and where it's not necessarily like you need answers from me because, like you said, you really don't care anyway, which is fine. Look, I don't really care either.
No,
but here's what I do care about is winning.
To be real.
Exactly. But I'll tell you this: if you and me get into a room, especially if we do kind of a round of fun experience, we go to a beach somewhere near in Puerto Rico or go on a fishing trip, like we're gonna spend time together agitating our thoughts. And we're both going to walk away going, you know what? That one thing that he said that was really good. I'm not going to do it like he said, but it spurred another thought of my own that I can go own and then implement. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't want anybody to think I'm masterminds. I'm not.
No.
There's a piece of nuance to that. And that is like, I have an informal advisory board because for me, it's like, I'm at a point in life where I have a no new friends policy. Like if we're not making money together, I don't have time.
Well, you just said since they're making money with you, it matters. Right. Their opinion matters.
Right?
Yeah.
That way I can trust your advice because what you tell me is going to directly affect your own pocketbook.
That's right. Love that. Love that. Yeah, I think maybe that's the ultimate mastermind that we can build. But you're 100% right. When my money's in it, typically my actions change a little bit. So
they do. Money has a clarifying factor.
It does. Lane, I got one last question here for you, brother. You ready?
Yeah.
If you had the opportunity to whisper in the younger Lane's ear, what would you say?
Yeah, like go ahead and quit the venture capital firm and go get a job as a project manager and learn the business before you execute on your crazy idea. Because now, like where I'm now, 6 years ago was where I wanted to be 5 years ago, right? But it took me 5 years to recover from the hubris. So what it really comes down to is, I'm sorry to that person. Number one, that was directly what I would tell them. And number two, it's a business needs three legs. Needs the product guy, needs the marketer, and it needs the operator. And unless you understand the business, you can't be the product guy. So if you don't, and you need to go hire that guy if you're not going to take the time to become the product guy, right? The same thing with the marketer and with the operator. It's operators are easy to come by. It's like anybody with an MBA can operate a company, like they understand the basics of it. But and you don't really need an operator during a startup phase. It's just after you've hit product market fit and you turn profitable, that's when you need that operator to scale. So that's, I guess that's what I would tell myself is like, hey, you're not a product guy. Yes, you're smart. Stop being arrogant, dick. Like, go find Ken Combs and partner with him before you go do this thing.
That's right. Yeah, well, yeah, and you, in hindsight, obviously, that's the whole point of the question.
Yeah.
But you can now see what the value of the relationship between you and Ken, or other partnerships that you've done, or even seen in other people. Major value there, but it's tough to know when you're
Oh,
young
man.
and bullheaded, right?
Oh, it would probably take a shot in the nuts first to just get that dude's attention. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that you're probably spot on with that. It's not a whisper in the ears, like you said.
it's a
It's a
shout.
yeah. Well, you you already alluded to the hubris, but we all have it. I mean, like, goodness gracious. I mean, that's why we think we can do what we can think we can do anyway. It's like
Right.
there's got to be a little bit of arrogance and naiveness there to even just take the risk to begin with. So
That's
the
right.
very thing that we're trying to change is the very thing that got us where we are, kind of, double-edged sword. So, Lane, okay, first off, how can the listener find you if they are a remodeling company and they want some coaching, consulting, free or paid? I know you're putting together some groups coming up, or maybe they're just a business owner and they want to pick your brain. Maybe they want to come to Puerto Rico, hang out with you. How can they find you?
Just go to facebook.com and look for the group High Profit Remodeler Business Secrets.
There you go.
It's not your typical Facebook group, but they're, where all they do is agitate the problem. And the only way you're going to solve that problem is by giving them 16 grand. I'm just going to give you the strategic and tactical implementations that we use inside CQC.
Yeah.
Because again, information's free, implementation costs money.
Exactly. Well, and I can attest, obviously, like I already said on the air, I've screenshotted several things that you've sent out in that group and sent it to my team, at multiple teams, not even the remodeling team. And even our messaging going back and forth, you're a wealth of information. You freely give it. I look forward to doing deals and business with you in the future, because it sounds like that's the only way I can be your friend. No.
Stop.
Hey, that's all right. Money talks, baby. All good. It's all good. Hey, there's no offense here. If anything, it leveled up the listener, because it definitely leveled up the conversation between us. And so I'm excited for that. Which, look, any big player, when I built a sales team for Grant Cardone, he would say, look, man, I'll be your friend, but why don't you buy one of my products? You trying to be my friend and not buy my product? Look, the quickest way to get real, even though it comes across potentially as not real at the beginning because you're paying, the quickest way to find high quality actual friendships is to purchase your way into a room of those people, because you have now stated to the room that you hold a certain level of value of yourself to be able to pay to get into the same room with them. And then the real conversation and relationship can begin.
That's right. That's right. Shouldn't be ashamed of the money. The money is what separates the player from the bystander.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I look forward to paying for your friendship.
Yeah, for the record, like, how can I get involved inside this mastermind of yours? Like,
Exactly.
I've seen a number of construction related guys in there. Yeah, exactly. So
there's guys that need you, and of course we can maybe add some value. But in all seriousness, go to Facebook, find Lane, find his group. There's plenty of value there. If you haven't gotten enough value already, you probably need to go back and listen to this one again. If you're at this point in the podcast, holy geez, just hit the replay. Yeah. And I guarantee you get something different. So, Lane, we wish you nothing but success, blessing on all of your businesses and money dealings and partnerships. Thanks for being here, brother.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.